It wasn't meant to be like this. The words came jagged out of her tongue, had been replaced by a cheese grater. It felt like it too. Her throat prickled and hurt and clogged with goo all at the same time. Grief was a messy business in every single way. Someone put a gentle hoof around her shoulders. "It's okay, Fluttershy." Of course it was Fluttershy. Tactical, gentle, soft voice suddenly seemed like she was a custom made for comforting ponies at funerals. "It's not okay, and it was a stupid thing to say." More cheese grater voice, more aching throat. Rainbow Dash turned her face away, but still felt the tremor in Fluttershy's foreleg. It was a pale imitation of how she would have once reacted, but it was all there. "I meant it's okay to cry," Fluttershy said. "You're grieving. That's natural. Don't bottle everything up. We're here for you." They had all come and then some. The graveside was crowded with family from all over Equestria that she had never even met before, plus dozens of those she had. They all looked at her with the same tearful consideration and let her stand on the front without protest. She had wanted her friends to stand at the front too. Part of helping some pony would object so she could kick up the stink. None of them did. No, they all had exquisited, like they were afraid to give her exactly what she wanted to say. Exactly what she wanted? Now here was a joke for a rotten punchline. "She meant so much to all of us," Fluttershy said softly. Suddenly Rainbow Dash wanted Fluttershy to kick and scream, be everything she wasn't. She wanted her to be someone she wasn't. She wanted to kick and scream herself, but it felt so hollow without someone to bounce her anger off in response. Fluttershy had changed over the years, but she would be back down from still fight, especially today. Rainbow Dash pushed the gentle foreleg off of her shoulders and stood up, shaking water from her feathers. Of course it was drizzling. The head weaver pony had refused to change her schedule for even one day. She had subsided to the correct paperwork from the triplicate, but she had still not even when she even had the reason to little printed box. She still hadn't given enough notice, as if it was supposed to have known which day the funeral would eventually fall a month in advance. A month ago she had been at home on the compassionate leave, soaking up every second time they had left. If she had been reeling with disbelief when she submitted the paperwork, Rainbow Dash might have punched him on the nose. "Forget this, I'm out of here." Flying Rain was awkward but not impossible. She took the air in a few wing beats and ignored her friends calling her back. She half expected at least one to fly after her, but they let her go. Speed and bracing wind dried out her eyeballs quite well. She belatedly pulled up her goggles so she didn't fly into a tree or something. Dramatic exits were much harder to pull off when you were lying in a heap of some pony was laughing their tail off at you. That was how their first fight had ended. It was only the afternoon when she moved in, and she had tried to win an argument by leaving dramatically. She didn't even remember what they had been fighting about just now. Just the fact that the bad feelings hadn't lasted long after she landed in the dirt. She cringed at the unbidden memory and flapped harder and stretched further, went faster. She flew like she was trying to escape. But how could you escape time? It always came down to time. There was either too much or not enough of it. Why had time been invented to follow such arbitrary rules anyway? It telescoped when you had nothing to do, and when there was too much to do, too much to say, too much to feel anything to cram into every hour of day. It shortened until hours ticked like seconds, and the alarm clock on the happy little dream world went off and you woke you to ugly reality. She had tried to smack that cosmetic alarm clock and at least put it on snooze, but it hadn't worked. "I'm sorry, Rainbow Dash." Twilight's words splattered across her memory like raindrops on her goggles. The memory was a poor substitute on lying on the ground outside the farmhouse and watching a silhouette laugh uproariously from the bedroom window. Becoming an alicorn depends on the pony's innate magical ability. So you're saying not only do unicorns get the longest lifespans of ponies, but they're also the ones who get the chance to live forever? Well, that's fair. She hadn't used the cheese grater voice at that time. Nope, at that time, she had yelled like a foghorn and smacked Twilight's workbench hard enough to leave dents. Not all unicorns get long lifespans. Pony feathers, they don't quit. Quit trying to sugarcoat things. Twilight, the unicorns who didn't live longer are the ones who do stupid stuff and get themselves killed in dumb accidents. Rainbow, I don't know what you want me to say. Longevity is linked to magic. There is more of a pony has, the longer they live. That's just the way things are. Yeah, I got that part when they needed a hip replacement, and I'm still flying at 90 miles per hour without a problem, and you're still young while the rest of us are covered in wrinkles. How did you know Rarity's only just the one getting the crow's feet? Pinky's hind legs are crippled with arthritis, and Rarity's just worried about her eyelids sagging, while in the meantime, her throat had clogged. Rainbow it's not fair. We're the elements of harmony. Doesn't that make a difference? She may have not been a unicorn or a Pegasus, but she's not an ordinary earth pony either. Surely you alicorn fly for that, or Princess Celestia or Princess Luna to do it. Heck, bring Cadence down from the Crystal Empire for all I care. They have been alicorns longer than you. Surely one of them can do something. She would never forget Twilight's expression. At that moment, nervous, apologetic, somewhat remote, and achingly sympathetic. She knew all too well that she was making Rainbow Dash's chest constrict, and that made her ask when she actually suspected the answer. Twilight was living that some emotion that very day, and she watched her friends grow old while she got only older. The elements of harmony contain that magic, she said softly. Not all the ponies who wield them. So you're saying there's nothing you can do? No age spells you can cast? No time reverse spells? No rewind the clock spells? Rainbow Dash barely understood the logistics of magic, despite spending so many years as a friend to the famous living magic scholar in Equestria. You can't give her at least a few more decades at least? There are those kinds of spells, Twilight had replied caggily. But I don't care. Whatever the risk, cast one. But cast one. You should ask her first. No, just do it. Here and now. Just cast a spell and make it. Make it all. Take her body back before. Words had failed Rainbow Dash as she threw them at the ball of her emotion inside her, trying to get a few to stick. I can't risk her saying no. You think she would? She had looked away, knowing her answer would be written on her face. Why do you think she'd say no, Rainbow Dash? Twilight had pressed. Because... Words slid off of her tongue with no particular order. Sick. You've been in Canterlot. She didn't. It wouldn't let me. In pain. And that's how bad, but she wouldn't. It was fast. Real fast. We thought we could tough it out, you know? Get some fancy schmancy doctor and it's all poof. It'd be gone. But the medicine didn't. They said it would spread too far before they caught it. Not even the magic could touch it, could say, so you gotta make her. She had drawn a sleep-shuddering breath to meet Twilight's gaze. Cast the damn spell. I can rewind her body in time before she got sick, but that won't erase it. It just means she'll go through all of this again. Twilight had stared back at her. It was the same stare that she used on Discord. Nightmare Moon, Cerberus, Chrysalis, and dozens of other living beings, but tempered with compassion and something else. Something that couldn't be clear until she spoke. You haven't think I tried every spell to get rid of that thing growing inside her? Anything more and I'll scramble her molecules so badly she won't. You knew? Rainbow Dash had gaped her aghast. I was in Canterlot, not the opposite end of the universe, I heard. I researched healing magic. I went up to the Surgeon General of Canterlot. General Hospital, and his best doctors taught me what to do. Then I came back to Ponyville and went to see her. You were in Cloudsdale asking Spitfire for time off. Twilight gave something a little too long to a blink. We talked and she let me cast the spells I had learned until she told me not to anymore. Rainbow Dash's heart sank. She did? It was the worst fear confirmed. Well, not her absolute worst, but definitely up there with the big ones. The backs of her eyes had prickled, and she had been filled with near uncontrollable urge to fly. As a filly she had thought of flying was the solution to all their problems. As a mare she knew she wasn't, and that didn't stop the urge coming whenever one cropped up, especially the big ones. She also said she thought you might come back to me and ask me as soon as I knew I was in town. She told you to tell me no. Twilight still shaking her head, causing the filigree decorations on tiara to twinkle in the light from the window. She was used to addressing the royalty in Canterlot. She was still dressing the part in Ponyville, where her humble surroundings even made the stylish jewelry look overdone. She told me to get you to understand why she said no more. She had stepped forward then. Still in the twilight, they had been befriended decades ago, despite her wings and glittery bits. But from what you just said, I think you already know why. I know she wants the pain to go away, but I don't want her to go away. Enough that you to make her relive this a second time, or prolonging life, even when it means making life live this longer too. It's not fair. The urge to fly came boiling inside her, shot down at her legs and forced her to buck to the rearest object in frustration. She was good at bucking. She had learned from the best. Twilight's workbench had tipped over, spilling official-looking paperwork all over the library floor. The inkwell had smashed, spilling consonants across the documents. Yet instead of picking anything up, Twilight had advanced a few steps between them and wrapped her forelegs around her friend. No, it's not, she had whispered hoarsely. None of it is fair. Get off, Twilight. Get off of me. Twilight had only hugged her harder. Her steadfast refusal to listen had popped the inflated balloon of anger, and Rainbow Dash had cried like a newborn foal until she was drained and trembling on her haunches. Throughout her breakdown, Twilight did not let go of her once. We saved the world, Rainbow Dash had choked out. A lot, doesn't that count for something? It counts. It doesn't feel like it. Would you rather have 100 years of just being friends or 54 years together? That's a dumbass question, but a legitimate dumbass question. Do I really have to answer? No, I already know that part too. Rainbow Dash wondered whether Twilight was known that she would run out at the funeral. She hadn't looked back to see her expression. She continued to fly into the rain, angled upwards, and it burst through the cloud bank and the open sky above. Shaking herself and shivering a little in the cold air, she flew back to Sweetapple Acres just before descending down below to the clouds again. The place was shut up tight. It would be, ever since every pony was at the ceremony. She thought about going back, but instead alighted the tree outside the bedroom window. Leaves tipped over water onto her as they rustled them, but she barely noticed. Instead, she had looked down and imagined herself in a heap, tail in the air, and splinters in her nose. No wonder she had provoked so much laughter. I miss you already, she said out loud. Her voice was rougher than it had been 54 years ago, when she performed that spectacular pratfall. Age and lots of shouting and new recruits had turned her throat into sandpaper. It probably would have been worse if she hadn't had that already supply of apple cider to wet her whistle. Sometimes I reckon you only fall for me because you were sick of missing out during cider season. The words rose in her mind, accompanied by images of rumpled bedclothes and crotchet blanket they had threw on in the winter whenever the boiler was packed up again. If she had moved into the Wonderbolt's barracks, then Spitfire would have offered the commotion, and she would have lived with the working amenities as a matter of course, and she had no absolute commute to work. She would never have spent a fought on whatever the icy floor below her bed would take the full fur and skin from the experimental hoof in the morning. Never she would have to throw it open every single window in the thickest heat of the summer, since the barracks had a premium of air conditioning, yet she had opted for the creaky floorboards. A roof consists of need of repair, draughty windows, and falls that needed to be repainted so often that it felt like covering them with obscene graffiti to see whatever a pony had noticed as they slathered onto the next coat. And she had regretted 1 second of it. Nah, it said in memory itself, the cider's just a bonus. Sure it is. Come here and let me show you why I really fell for you, her self-memory pronounced, allowing recollections to emerge of just how creaky their bed was and how unbolted the bed sheets could have moved across the floor. There would be no more giggles in that empty bed. There would be no more laughing silhouettes out of that window. There would be no more of the Sovereign Twain telling her to stop using the roof as a launching pad and presenting her with the new placement tiles to lay when she didn't listen. There would be no more late nights, no more ridiculously early wake-up calls, no more lessons on how to buck properly, no more races, no more cider with 2 straws, no more anything. Today marked the end. Big Macintosh, Apple Bloom and their families would still work the farm, but the room she had shared would be silent against the relentless pull of moving, with one less pony in it. A tear fell all the way from her perch down to the ground below. Eventually her eyes had not drained out as much as she thought. I miss you, Applejack, she whispered. Her only reply was the wind and the rain and the ghost of laughter. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.